Ladies and gentlemen, we're in for a real treat on Sportswire Radio tonight. You're watching the Knicks and the Heat. You're watching them battles. I want to hear some more local basketball talk. Well, we've got it and some here tonight because we have somebody on here, and he has had a decorated career for the Clark boys basketball team here on Long Island in Nassau County, and he has done a number of different things there, putting that program on the map, and he's also going to be playing later this year for Misericordia College here in Pennsylvania, not too far from Scranton, PA, and he's going to be making quite a journey. He's also done some things for our Level Up basketball program, and to kind of give us a first-hand journey on this individual, we'll have somebody that has coached him, also played alongside him a little bit here, and that is the brute force Brad Weiss, and he knows him maybe better than anybody else, well, with the exception of maybe his parents. Our guest here tonight, like I said, Newsday Top 100 player, 3 times All-County, Conference Player of the Year. He needs no further introduction, but because we like him, we're going to give it to him. So, without further ado here on the Sports Report, the number one global sports show basketball star from Misericordia University and from the Clark Boys basketball program, AV Player of the Year, All-County, Newsday Top 100. His name is James DeSimone. James, how are you?
Calm. I'm great. I don't think I could top that intro, though.
Well, before I get to the brute force, I'll say this, and before I get to some comments, I'm doing this 4.5 years, James. I'll say this. I always will be remembered by one thing. It's not the interviews. It's not the who's who that have come on, not the different wrestlers, the countries that have been with us on Sportswire. It's those introductions. So you're not the first person. You won't be the last that tells us here. But obviously, it's a tremendous honor to have you. We're going to talk a lot about your journey and everything else that has led you to Long Island, to near Scranton, PA. But to set the tables for us, as I always do here when we have these important basketball spots, I want to bring in the brute force Brad Weiss, who might, like I said, know you better than anybody with the exception of your parents. And Brad, talk about James DeSimone and what the kind of person, the player he has become here through Clark High School, Level Up basketball, and on his way to Misericordia University.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? Where do I begin, Tom Bryce? Because there's a long story I have to tell here. So buckle up and listen, everybody who's listening out there. But certainly I want to take it back to even before high school, because that's really when me and James got to meet and get to start our relationship and our journey together as, player and coach. But anyway, to start it off, basically, what's going on, Omen? Basically, to start it off, listen, we actually met through the great Ed and Kelly Dempsey over at the Hicksville Athletic Center at the camps over there that they run in the summer. James was one of the best players that was playing in that camp over many years, and it was just that thing. You saw that desire, that heart, all the things I'm going to talk about when it comes to James's game and the way that he played. You saw it in the camp, and he was one of those kids that was, even if he was, maybe one of the shorter guys there, he was the guy that everyone knew who he was because he made it obvious, whether it was from his crap talking to his, loud personality, to all the different things that he did.
He's got to be loud tonight because I want to hear loud, James.
He's loud. You'll hear it. But listen, he made it obvious that he was a basketball player that really wanted it and really wanted to be great at the sport. And I never told this to him, Tom. I'm going to say it now. That camp, at some point when he was there, it was almost like every week I worked, I looked to see if James was on the roster every single week because he was one of those guys you're just like, yes, I want him there. Yes, I want that challenge. Yes, I want to coach this guy. And that just leads me into everything I'm about to say about him as a player. He is one of the guys, we use that old term like lunch pail, like he just wants to grab it and learn and just grasp it. This kid is one of the best when it comes to really locking in on details, working his butt off, letting you coach him, which is something that I've had the fortunate nature of doing. And he took a chance on me because I was really a young pup in the coaching realm, and he took a chance on me to help him in his journey when he got to high school and now into college. And again, his play style is unique. It's a little bit of that Steph Curry type shooting with the ball handling as well, and obviously a great rim finishing package.
You're saying Doug Niblock and Matt Hurt as a cross,
He's got
correct?
a lot of different. You could put a lot of different guys into him, and he kind of has all of those traits. But again, he's just a great learner. He's a great player overall. Obviously, he's one of our best players to play in the Level Up LI basketball program on one of the best teams as well. So you said all the accomplishments, but really the accomplishments come with his hard work, his dedication, and the hours that he puts in the gym, whether it's early in the morning, late at night, middle of the day. He is always somewhere working out, playing basketball. And again, he trusts his coaches to help him learn and get better. And that's why he's become a Division III basketball player at Misericordia. So as a friend, because it's not only just a coach, I am now his friend as well. It means a lot to have him on the show today. He has a great personality. He's just a good kid. And all the kids you'll talk about his teammates later, Tom Bryce, I mean, they all talk about him as a leader, as an example, as somebody they want to follow. And that's a big thing about a player. And that's why a university like Misericordia would love to have him there. And I'm just excited for his journey. And I'm really fortunate, Tom Bryce, I've had the opportunity to coach him and kind of mentor him into the player that he now has become. And again, and also the personality he's become, because you'll see, ladies and gentlemen, this guy has such a unique personality, and he really is outgoing. So buckle your seatbelt. It's time to listen to James. But I'm really excited to hear from him tonight.
Absolutely, and I want to give a shout again to the IMF World Heavyweight Champion, Omen Black. Omen, a very, very big man. He's out from the state of Iowa for the Iowa Midwestern Wrestling Federation. Wants to say hello. We'll have more coverage of the guys in the near and distant future. But, James, I mean, you hear some of these comments, and I think the first thing that the Brute Force said was kind of a go-getter, scrappy, and reminds me of a show back in Brooklyn we were growing up called The Scrappers. And these guys are in the junkyards out in Brooklyn and the tough neighborhoods of Brooklyn, and you fit in very well with some of those guys. But, I mean, when you speak and hear some of these different things that the Brute Force has had to say, I mean, what does that mean to you? And talk about this journey that you've went on, which led you obviously being in Clark, having all this success and going on to Misericordia, where you're going to play there and probably do even bigger and better things here than you've done, and talk about all that for those that are listening and watching.
It's been a journey. From when I met Brad when I was a third grader at this PAO camp, I'm looking up to this guy, and he's towering, but I still know I could take him. Like first, Omen. I need Omen Black to teach me some moves that I could use against Brad. But
Omen's a big man. I mean, Omen is he's like big. He would probably in all due respect, James, he'd probably eat you. Like, he's like that big. He's like,
me and him have to join forces to take down Brad.
Well, he probably would want to do that. I mean, obviously, he likes that kind of stuff. But, I mean, this is about you and your basketball journey. I mean, we want to hear about, from the third grade on and just what has kind of led you into this kind of career that, before Mr. Black responds, because he actually did kind of like what you had to say. But, I mean, I just love to know, I mean, from you're this third grader and you meet Brad and then to where you are today, and just kind of talk about that.
Yeah, so it's just, I remember going to these PAL camps, and I loved everything about it. And then I really started, taking basketball seriously in, the 8th grade, when I started really working on my game, constantly going to the park. I love to go to the park. I like to play by myself. I never really had a trainer until I met Brad. And then me and Brad, we started training, I would say. Brad, what would you say, 10th grade?
Yep, early high school.
Yeah, early high school, and then ever since then we picked it off, and it's been my peak years of basketball. I just enjoyed it so much. I just love the game, everything about it.
What has the game meant to you in terms of this journey? What has basketball done for you, even, let's say, outside the court? Obviously, Brad talks about the fact that you've become a leader to many of your teammates. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, but in terms of what has basketball meant to you, maybe even on and off the court?
It gives me a passion. I have a passion towards basketball, and I'm go as long as I can, just keep doing that.
Brad, when you hear that and you talk about the fact that James, all he does is eats, drinks, and sleeps basketball, leave aside these kind of funny comments with these different wrestlers he likes to kind of join in with. I mean, you're somebody that's played at a very high level. You've had a lot of success in the collegiate world. And talk about when you see something like that and maybe how rare that is necessarily, because not everybody can go out and say, hey, all I want to do is think basketball. All I want to do is just go out and just live this game. And I mean, talk about when you see something like this in a young player in a James.
Yeah, I mean, to go back on and piggyback on the story that I mentioned before, I mentioned that James really stuck out amongst the crowd of kids that were there. Well, a lot of those kids, right, Tom, are getting dropped off by mommy and daddy just to go to camp and learn some basketball, right? But James was there to do more than just that. He was there to dominate. He was there to obviously, like he just told you guys, like he's challenging me when I'm at the peak of my career as a fourth grader.
Yeah, I was here, eighth grade. I mean, you had to have been at St. Joe's in that 2018
Yeah,
run.
and I was
Wow.
at the end of my high school career going into St. Joe's, and this kid's trying to play me one-on-one in fourth grade. I mean, it was just the courage, right? The desire that he had. I mean, listen, he was the kid, right? When I was coaching against him, again, we'll get into the story of the camp a little later. I want to save that for my questions. But with that being said, like he was always that kid that like had an edge. Like I use that word edge all the time with him because he has that edge. He has that extra desire over other guys. Like even Jesse Winter mentioned it the last time we spoke to him,
Yes.
Tom, where James is going into gyms against older, bigger kids, and he just has that edge about him. And that's a big thing that I recognized in that camp. And those are the kids that you want to coach. You want to coach guys that really want it and show that they're going to, work harder than everybody else and do those little things that other guys just can't do. And that's one thing that James, again, I recognized about him right away. And even after the camp, we actually had a little bit of a hiatus where we didn't see each other for a few years because I was at St. Joe's and he was, still young. And then when we reconvened when he was in high school, right, you could just see how much he really wanted to learn, like I said. And that's something, Tom, that not every player, especially a star player like James, is willing to do that, right? They don't want to listen.
That question because it's really rare to have somebody like this who plays very well at the game and it has a natural ability, a natural talent, but he still wanted to go out there and improve his game to where he could be an all-around player that goes away from home and goes to a place in Misericordia University where he's going to go on and do bigger and better things. That's why I thought it was such a rare thing, really, Brad.
It is. And, obviously we'll get to it in a little bit, but going from the high school that he came from, it's extremely rare. It doesn't happen. Let's just put it that way. But again, the reason why it did happen is all those things we're discussing, that extra edge, right? That extra work, right? He doesn't just come to my training sessions and that's good enough for him. He'll go and he'll do it on his own. He'll find a gym. He'll find a park. He'll find anywhere where he can just get a hoop and just do it. And the one thing that, I've learned from his parents too and from his family is that this kid was the type of kid that, studied the game, like really, would shoot on his own in his house, like do those different things to work on his like he did everything again, right, to push himself to be the greatest that he can be. And all those accomplishments you mentioned, Tom, came from that work ethic and the way that he, again, learned and he trusted people to learn, right? And that's something that, again, I coach a lot of different players. There's some that really want to learn and they get better, and there's some that don't. And James has been the one that's willing to learn. Again, he trusted me with that, and that means a lot to me in my coaching career as well.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, in anything in life, when you teach something, it's either is going to be you have it or you don't have it. My father was a drum teacher. Would always say there were certain people that could pick the instrument up, and there were others that they didn't have it. But James clearly was one of those people that had it. But James, I hear those different things from the brute force, and I had to almost ask you this question. Tell me your thoughts. Did you naturally have a chip on your shoulder? Maybe it was because you were maybe shorter than everybody else, or maybe people looked at Clark High School and said, they haven't had much success. I mean, did you naturally throughout your career so far have a chip on your shoulder?
Brad knows. We would sit in the concession stand of the PAL Center. Just Clark is a super small school, and me being 5'9", I had to have a chip on my shoulder to work. I have to work like so much harder than the person next to me just because of the disadvantages I have.
Sure.
It truly made me where I am today.
So you think then, let's say hypothetically, if you weren't quite Brad's height, but let's say like my height, 6 foot as an example, or 6'1", do you think that you would have had the same success, or maybe you wouldn't have had the same success because you wouldn't have had that chip on your shoulder? Is that something you ever thought about?
No, I mean, who knows? Because who knows?
Okay, well, that's a fair point here. I mean, obviously, that's why we have you here. But I did kind of want to talk about what got you into basketball. You've become this kid that just loves basketball, eats, sleeps, drinks basketball. And I mean, I have some more comments first, but I kind of wanted to ask because this is the first time I'm really getting to know you, James. And I kind of wanted to know what got you into basketball. You've had this love and passion for it that is going to lead you to bigger and better places.
Well, I have an older brother, so me and my older brother are always super competitive with everything. And he was playing basketball when he was in 3rd grade. And my dad would always tell me, James, it's not your time yet. You could play eventually, but not right now. Because like that's when the league started. But so I would still go outside, shoot in my backyard. And my Uncle Dave, which he means so much to me, he would always come outside and rebound for me, play me one-on-one. And ever since then, he taught me like the little details of everything. And he's always given me life lessons, and he really taught me to take everything with like that everything's a little deeper than it really is. And he taught me that, so I would always focus on the little details, and that's what really helped me like evolve a little faster than everyone else when I was younger.
Interesting. I do have a comment here from somebody that the two of you would actually definitely know. In fact, the both of you actually saw him on the basketball court not too long ago. In fact, you guys actually have a victory over him. And his name you might have heard of is Jason Gordieso. And of course, Gordieso we know here from a couple of different stops. Obviously here at CCNY, which I first know him from. Also our SJLI men's basketball team, where I think we were trying to get you to play for us. Now he's with the Malloy men's basketball team. And I kind of wanted to ask you, James, you have any memories of Coach Gordieso? Leave aside the heroic victory 2 weeks ago or so on the basketball court. But anything you want to share about Coach Gordieso? Because I know we're going to have him in this chair very soon. So I figured kind of like we do in wrestling, give you the first firing shot, the first opportunity to say something to Coach Gordieso before he comes on here.
Yeah, Jason's my man. Seriously. I remember him. I was talking to him since I was a sophomore. He's a great dude. I remember the St. Joseph's, everything about it was, he made it so, it was a great visit. And we saw him about 2 weeks ago, me and Brad, in the tournament game.
Yes, and I saw that you guys won on a buzzer beater, and you were acting as if like you won the game. I never saw somebody celebrate that much ever at a basketball game. I mean, do you want to share anything about that moment? Because it was all over Instagram, by the way. I mean, I saw that on at least like 7 or 8 people I follow on Instagram. It was like on their stories or on their posts. So I have to ask you about that.
Yeah, that's just my spirit. I feel like when I'm coaching, I'm still one of the players. It's just, they hit a shot, I feel the same energy. I love it. Everything about it.
And what I was going to say is it's unique because, again, James is still a player in high school. You know, he's young. So it's hard. You know, he's trying to make that transition to coaching at a young age. And, you know, sometimes you get caught up in those moments because you're still a player. And, you know, it's hard. You know, even as a coach, I've had to learn how to compose myself because, you know, as a player, you want to get out there. You want to celebrate with the kids. But listen, James, you should see him. And we'll get to this later. I don't want to prelude anything. But the way that he kind of goes with the kids and how much the kids love him because of his energy and how he brings it every single day. That's why he's out there. And the kids will never forget that moment where, you know, when they go to practice, they look forward to seeing James there because they know that the energy and that desire, right, that you saw in that film where he was running on and going and getting the kids excited. I mean, that's a moment they'll never forget.
Your father was kind of like the funny one in the background because if I recall correctly, he was kind of like standing in the back and it was almost like I don't think he knew how to react. Your father. Bro.
Well, what's funny is me and him both were just kind of in shock, but he wasn't as in shock as me because he's seen the same kid hit big shots before. So he kind of, you know, was expecting that type of shot. I don't know to go in, but at least confident that it had a chance. So he was in a different estate. But again, as coaches, right, we learn how to compose ourselves in those situations. But listen, as much as we love Gordieso, we needed that win. But we'll see him down the road again. We love him here.
I think we won the weekend before we played them again, right? And didn't we?
We did play them the week before, and we won. It was by 2 points. Both ties were by 2 points.
I was going to say 2 for 2 against him. I mean, so I could see why.
Nail biters, though. Nail biters.
Well, maybe those are the most sweetest victories. You get those nail biters. You go 2 for 2 here. And Coach Gordieso, obviously, we love Coach Gordieso. I'll definitely let him respond when he's in the chair here in a couple of weeks. But obviously, we want to get, James, your take. But, I mean, James, do you see yourself in these kids? Maybe that's why you're so energetic out there. I mean, talk about that.
I tell them from day one, once I started coaching, I told them, I'm just like you. I'm a player still. They're all players. So once they see that they can connect with me on another level, and I just try to have fun with them. I try to teach them. I see passion in every one of them. So I just keep it going off that.
No, I think, you know what, and I think people gravitate to that in anything in life, as we're talking here with Clark boys basketball star James DeSimone on his way to Misericordia University here. You can follow James on Instagram and Twitter at James DeSimone _, and also the brute force Brad Weiss, legendary SJLI Golden Eagle, 27th now all-time in school history and rebounds, near the top of the list all-time in block shots. You can follow on Instagram at BWeiss20, Twitter Brad Weiss20, Bradley Weiss on Facebook, and Snapchat, if that's still a thing, as well, Brad Weiss, and my name is the Reverend Tom Bryson. You know, James, actually I have to ask, I mean, do you have a SJLI story or two when you were kind of being recruited there by Coach Correa? Because, you know, we talked to a lot of the guys on the team. You know, we cover the program, obviously. Brad played there, and I've obviously been covering them since Brad was a player there. You have any interesting moment or two you want to share about, whether it's the Danzy Center or any memories of that recruiting experience that you had there with Coach Gordieso, and I'm sure some others?
One I have. They were the first school to really contact me. And for me, the first school always means the most.
Okay.
So they really saw the potential in me. And so then me and Jason would always text. We text throughout the year. I'd update him how I was doing. Then it was during COVID. It was like right at the end of COVID. So like the visit was a little more challenging to get because like restrictions and all that.
Right.
And I went on the visit, but then the coaches changed. I think AJ, you will replace McFloy.
Correct.
And it's a little shaky. And then I went to the camp. Everything went well, but then had some other offers. So
right, no, totally. Listen, listen, you have to go with what's best for your family, and obviously, Coach himself, Gordieso, wound up going to.
Hold on. I gotta add something, because you know what? I gotta take my moment of fame, Tom Bryce, because he didn't talk about the poster that he saw there and took a picture with.
All right, go ahead, Brad.
I gotta take my moment of fame. James, how was it taking a picture with yours truly in the dancing center? I mean, come on. Like, this is this. How did you not mention that?
I stopped Jason in the middle of he was talking in the middle of him talking. I was like, Jason, we need a picture. And then my mom took her phone out, took a picture of me and Jason. It's in my heart, Brad, forever, that photo.
Yeah, that's right. Listen, that poster still stays there at the dancing center, Tom. You know I got to make sure I you see, Jason knows. I got to make sure I mention it.
I kind of feel like in a lot of ways, I mean, listen, I hope I don't get in too much trouble for this year, because obviously we love the program. We love what you've done here at SJLI, Brad. But I mean, I feel like that poster has like taken a life of its own. And I feel like that poster's had like more success than your career at SJLI. I mean, for crying out loud, I mean, guys like Chris Sniblock, Dave Ackery, Trey Black, Chris Jimenez. I mean, I don't ever hear their posters, but you, Brad, maybe it's because you're on Sportzwire. Maybe it's because we cover the program. Maybe it's because they feel like we're going to get more recognition by talking about it. But that poster has literally taken a life of its own, Brad.
It has, and certainly I'm very appreciative of it. So listen, listen, a lot of those kids that are still there, you know, I influenced them, you know, in a way to try to go to St. Joe's. So listen, obviously they love our support. So me being there,
and we love the program. Let me make that clear. I mean, we love the team.
Yeah,
obviously,
and definitely I think me being there and me kind of still being represented is something that, you know, they still remember. You know, they still remember what I was, you know, and again, we talk about it all the time about how, you know, I started kind of the success of the program after I left. You know, we had that year, but that was a learning year. So listen, those are things that now James is going to experience in college, is that now he's going to go and he's going to have to learn from the, you know, initial experiences. But those are going to be important. Some of the players that were on the team are going to talk to him about what it's like to be there. And that's something that he's going through now in his transition phase into college.
So I want to ask you that, James, actually, because I think it's a great time. It's a kind of a great segue, because we talked about this SJLI experience. We talked about some of Brad's memories. So, I mean, I'm curious in what led you to go to Misericordia here, all the way out in Pennsylvania. It's away from home here, and maybe talk about what led you to come here with the Golden Bears and what we can expect in later this year.
Well, my goal originally was to. My parents hate this, but I wanted to go away. I think I'd grow more as a person. So I wanted to go away, and then it was a perfect distance for me, 3 hours. I can come back when I need it. Everything was about that was perfect. Then I went on the visit, and I met Coach Wilson and Tyler Tinson, and I just knew immediately from the start that was the school I wanted to go to. I loved everything about it, the gym, the new buildings, and everything the coach had to say. It felt like home.
And talk about going away though from home the first time. I mean, is that something that you've been kind of planning in your mind and that experience? I mean, I can remember the first time I was away from home back in the summer after high school. I had lived for a summer and lived with my uncle, and it was like almost like a nervous experience in a sense. I mean, so you're actually doing it though for a long period of time, and this is where you're going to play hopefully for the next 4 years. And I mean, how are you planning for this kind of big life adjustment here?
I know that my time will be dedicated towards something good, basketball. So I think I'll be in the gym. I'll be eating. I'll be going to sleep. I'll be hanging out with my teammates. That's all I that's all I need.
Well, I'm excited to see you there. Obviously, we're all excited about the program here and such. And I mean, anything you want to add about that, Brad? And how is that different in your journey? And maybe have you given James any advice as he gets ready to leave here later this summer?
Yeah, well, I've obviously given them the advice of, kind of what I was getting into about the initial experience of college. Obviously I did it differently. I commuted, I did it differently. But, the one thing that always happens, especially as a young player, is that you're going to go through those stages, kind of as a freshman. You have to get to know everybody. You got to get to know the campus and all different things. But, especially in the early season, right, you're trying to develop your role. You're trying to develop, where you kind of stand on the team. And for James, right, it's going to come at, in a time frame. For me, I got lucky. I started midway my freshman year. That doesn't happen to everybody.
And
for
James
James,
made the playoffs too, by the way, that first year.
Yeah, so for James, it might take some steps. And, I kind of talked to him more about the adversity that could happen. There could be those bad days where those bad practices, you're like, damn, and some kids, right, give up. And those are things more that I've kind of talked to James about, work through those days of adversity, work through that time, right, where you're on the team and, right, things are not going well. And when things are going well, right, get to know your teammates, right, be friendly with them on and off the court, right, but go and compete against them in practice. Those are a lot of things we talk about. Obviously we can go more in depth with it, but the overall initial experience of going into college, especially as a basketball player, obviously take care of the grades, which I know James does. So take care of the grades, student athletes, so student comes first. But secondary as an athlete, just do the things. And again, those moments will happen. There's going to be times where you're going to be questioning, second-guessing yourself, because always in basketball is going to be highs and lows of a season. But I think James, for the first time, especially as a star player in high school, he never has really experienced that adversity yet. Maybe a bad game or two, but not, I'm not playing, or, my role's different. Those are things that he's going to experience. I think that's the most important thing for me as a coach, to make sure he understands.
I want to ask you about that, James, because that's an interesting point that the Brute Force makes. Now, you're obviously going away. You're going to be in a different environment, and you're going to be on a team that there's no guarantee that you're going to get the minutes, the numbers that you've had here at Clark. And, I mean, how do you prepare for something like this? Some guys just say, well, I know what's going to happen. There's other people that say, well, you know what? I mean, I'm certainly changing my game a bit. I'm changing my habits, my patterns, and people go about it different ways. But I mean, how are you maybe preparing for the possibility that you may not be the star on this team? You may not even get the minutes that you've got here at Clark. You were kind of, in a way, a big fish here. You were the big man on campus. And in Misericordia, I mean, we hope you're going to be, but we don't know. I mean, so kind of talk about maybe how you're planning for a possible adjustment here in this first year and your role on this team compared to being a Clark.
Oh, 100%. It's going to be totally different. In college, everyone's the man in high school. So now I have to understand my role of the team. So I think obviously it's whatever the team needs. But for me, Brad's gonna like this one. I think it's all about defense because I think in high school everyone could score the basketball, and in college every person can score the basketball. So if you're just a good defender, knowing how to read defense, you'll be good.
Well, you sound like the possible D3 basketball player that we need because that's kind of the role of a D3 player in a lot of ways, James. You can't just be a guy that can just shoot the ball, stand around, look for my shot because at this level, as Brad knows, and we speak a lot about it, James, I know you've heard a lot of our interviews on Sportswire, being a D3 basketball player, you have to be able to be prepared to do everything. You have to be able to be prepared for the defense. You have to be able to be prepared for guarding, the boxing out, all the different little plays. It's not just about how many points you have in the box score. When you're a D3 basketball player, there's no guarantees. I mean, other than like Ryan Terrell and Doug Levy, and even Doug Levy, he didn't start out and being Doug Levy that we knew and have gotten to love on Sportswire. So there's very few people. I guess Ryan Terrell would be the only exception, maybe Frank Basile even, that those are the only two people I could think of that pretty much started their career from starting to finish, and they're going to be big-time players. So the reality of it is to be a D3 player and to be a successful one, you're going to have that mindset, I think.
100%.
Okay, and I do have a comment from Anthony Fink, who unfortunately I'm not going to do Darwin time right now at the moment because we're actually speaking with a guy, James DeSimone, who's going his way to Misericordia University. We will talk maybe the NBA in a little while, but I don't know if you're going to be around by that time. But James obviously is somebody that's been a big supporter of Sportswire. James, Anthony Finkel, you've probably seen him pop up, longtime friend of mine, big time guy here out of Brooklyn. Also a big guy, by the way. Big guy, loves wrestling, but for different reasons, like the Brute Force. But he's obviously hyped about the Knicks winning. Knicks certainly do have made it a series here. We'll definitely maybe talk about that later on, but I want to kind of, in the interest of time, get into your journey, but I want to give a big shout out to Anthony Finkel. Anthony's a community-minded guy, like what you're trying to do here in the world of D3 basketball. He's also the man behind the DPH property service, so if you need help of some sorts out there in the tri-state area, Anthony's the man to get it done when it comes to rubbish removal, when it comes to snow removal, shoveling, you name it, tree installation, he does it all. But James, I want to talk about also with you about Clark High School because this was a little school that Brad spoke about that, we really didn't know much about it in the Nassau high school scene. Really hadn't had much success in these 3 or 4 years you were there. And you kind of put this program on the map. Now, we didn't quite win a championship, but we got our first home game, first playoff win. And I mean, talk about your memories here at Clark High School and how you and a few other your teammates were able to put this basketball team on the map. And I think for years to come, going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Tom, I really hope it could stay this way. From sophomore year, we were 2-8. It was during the COVID year, and everyone came. It was definitely a tough time, but we pulled up 6-7 people to varsity that year. All of us were 10th graders, and then we were 2-8. We played all right, but we knew we had a lot of potential. We knew we could play better. Junior year comes around, we start off the season, I think. It was something like we lost our first 10 games. And then after that, we won 8 in a row. Then we lost 1, then we won 5 in a row. So we ended the year about, I forgot exactly, but maybe we were like 16-4. Nah, it's not 16-4. Maybe like 10-10 around there. We were like 500. Okay. Yeah, we ended the year and we made playoffs, which is amazing. First time in history. And then we won in the first round versus Great Neck South, which was a crazy game. It's just high school basketball. It was a great time, like hitting big shots. I thank the fans every day. My classmates, they'd chant. You're gonna laugh, Brad. Brad, you know what they're gonna chant. What do they chant, Brad?
I'm not saying a word. This is your time to shine. Go, you do it.
They gave me some MVP chants, which obviously those were great. But then most importantly, they gave me Jimmy Buckets chants, which are my personal favorite. But
I could certainly see why, because there's a Jimmy Buckets on the court that you might be cheering for against the New York Knicks. So I could certainly understand the comparison there, especially how your team was able to get up in there in the playoffs and do something that the program had never done before. I could certainly see why you're that clutch.
It was a fun time. I'm gonna miss it a lot.
Well, let me ask you a question on that because I find it fascinating when you have a program that hasn't had that success. Then all of a sudden you're kind of in that moment. We spoke about this with some different schools. We did it on a higher level, obviously, with the Brooklyn College program. Obviously, a guy, Danny Burns, and he's the only player in part of his team that ever in CUNY won a championship, plays in the Final Four. And I remember asking Danny, what was that like? You're going through that moment on campus with your classmates, everybody else, and you're going through all the national articles and everything else. So for you, on that level here at home in Clark, where this is a team that nobody knows Clark for basketball. Everybody, it's a small little school, and they think of it as the candy bar rather than the high school, right? So what's that moment when you guys are going through that, having this run, getting into the postseason, winning that playoff game, and talk me through those moments and what's that like on campus experiencing that? Do you know all of this history? Are you aware of it? Does it put pressure on you? I mean, talk about all of this.
Most of the team was aware. We all knew, and it was something that like we all bonded over. We knew that we were making history. Clark is a big baseball school, and basketball was never talked about. Clark is
I never really heard of it as basketball.
Yeah.
Baseball, I'd heard it from baseball before, and I didn't really know much about basketball, honestly.
Yeah, so when we had our little run, it was special. And the feelings we felt in that run, it was unbelievable. I wish I could relive it.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people are going to be living it for a long time here. Brad,
Let me add a little bit, Tom. Let me add a little bit.
Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah. All right, let me add more. Because, listen, James, we could obviously see as a young pup in regards to, speaking here. But listen, he knows what I'm about to say, okay? There is a stigma when it comes to Clark, all right? Because nobody knows where it is. It's like one of the only high schools on Long Island that's not named after their town. I
was going to say, it's Baldwin, Hicksville, Plainview,
and when you think about Clark, like
Oceanside.
I mean, they're like comprised of multiple towns, and like it makes no sense. But anyway, basically, it's like you said, a small school. They've had no success. And one of the things I did, and this is where I wanted to bring it up, Tom, is that when I first kind of, knew that James was, so motivated and confident that he wanted to, overcome the stigma of, oh, we never win here and we can't do this, we can't do that. I actually did the research, and I went to every year, starting from when they opened in 1970 something, I forgot. And I went every year and I checked to see what did Clark do this year. And they barely have any playoff appearances, let alone no playoff victories. So part of my coaching philosophy when it was to James, when he came into the gym was, listen, this is the motivation you have. Your school has done nothing. Your school has what are you going to do about it? Like, well, you want to do this, this, and this. Like he was always talking about, I want to be the guy to win the first playoff game here. I want to do this. I want to be that, right? And I'm like, listen, well, you see what the history is. What are you going to do about it? That was part of the reason why we were getting in the gym over and over again, because of that motivation. And also with James, he's one of those guys that you have to push and challenge, right? He's gonna push and he's gonna work hard. But to get him to that next level, you really got to push him. So I had to talk my junk, right? I had to do whatever it took, right, to make sure that he was continuing to go for that goal, which was to win the first school's playoff game, which they did. Right? They got to the playoffs 2 straight years, which is something the team has never done.
Playoff game for the first time this past year. I mean,
they won 15 games this year. That's something that there's foreign territory for Clark. Even when I was at Plainview, right, we always talked about Clark and everybody would just laugh, right?
Yeah, right. You can't compare. Plainview had success. I mean, you guys.
Right, but what I'm saying is that there was that thought, oh, Clark, they're a joke at basketball. They changed that narrative, and that's a big thing for James in his career, because kids that are in the Clark school district, right, and in that, they look up to him. They look at James as kind of that guy that changed the program. Almost like, at St. Joe's, you kind of see the Alec Tabatas of the world and, some of the top players there.
McNeely, Spencer Malloy, sure.
Matt Hurd, like they look up to those guys because those are the guys that are really changing the program. The new guys that are coming in, right, are seeing that. And the same thing goes with James right now, because he was kind of that leading force, as I use that force term, that really pushed it. And that's a big thing for a school that basically has done little to nothing when it's come to basketball. Literally no success. No playoff wins before him, not alone playoff appearances. They didn't even get in the playoffs. So that it was a big thing for their school. And I think, as you said, Tom, hopefully it puts them on the right track to more success.
And I have some more comments. I'll get to them. I know there's people that want to have some jokes at your expense. We'll we'll get to them in a second, but I really do want to spend a few minutes on this because, James, that's a lot of pressure. You think about it at the high school level, and your school has no success. And usually you think about, well, my team had done this and done that. You're coming in here, and you're really like the first slate of players that have done anything, whether it's yourself and Jack Hollywood and Jonathan Segura, Zeke Mercado. I mean, you can find out about all this on the program's Instagram page, WT Clark with an EBB. But I mean, it's got to be in some ways you're going to always look back. Well, we were the first. We were the first to have the home playoff game. We were the first to get the playoff win. We were the first to 15 wins. I mean, so in a lot of ways, what Brad is talking about, I mean, that's like a lot of pressure what you went through here. I mean, it's really magnified because, again, nobody before you can't go to anybody and say, hey, what was it like going to the playoffs? Hey, what was it like going to the championship? You can't do any of that.
Yeah, you're 100% right. We all had our chip on our shoulder. Every day in practice, we were battling every day because we knew what our potential was. Because we went to the fall leagues at the Hicksville Athletic Center and the spring leagues. We knew our potential and we saw it. We only lost in the championship game. We lost by 20 to Manhasset. No, actually, I think it was 7 points. It was somewhere around there. But
who had, by the way, for context purposes, who had won the state championship the year before, or that year. Sorry.
Exactly. So we knew what we were capable of. So we just try to every day compete and get better. And in the scheme of things, it did help.
Talk about your coach, Joe Hasbrook, and how influential he was to the team and also for your career.
Everything. His energy was amazing. He pushed us every day. Practice was great. He definitely taught me so much about the game. He showed me things. He gave me the confidence which I needed. He told me, hey, if you're open, shoot the ball. Just trust yourself. You'll make the right play. He told me just play and have fun out there, and everything will be good.
Talk about some of your teammates. We mentioned a few of them. Jonathan Segura. We mentioned also Jack Hollywood, who looks like he's from Hollywood. Zeke Mercado. You have a few others. I think there was 5 of you that were all conference players and such. And, I mean, talk about some of your teammates and how influential they were in your success, but most importantly, the team's success these last 2 years.
I've been playing with these guys since 8th grade, so they all became my brothers. Jonathan Segura, he's going to Oswego to play soccer. Zeke Mercado is one of my best friends. Jack's one of my best friends. All these, they're my brothers. And to be able to play with them every single day during the season, it was something that you can only dream about.
Well, you definitely were able to do that. And I was also curious on a couple of things of note. And what was it like for you being named one of Newsday's top 100 boys basketball players earlier last year?
It's a great feeling knowing all the work really paid off. All the hours spent in the gym with Brad, all the hours spent by myself. It's a great feeling. Everyone who supports me, I'm thankful for it.
What did it also mean to you to be 3 times All-County?
It means a lot.
I could see it. I could see in your eyes that it meant something to you.
I'd be at this level, until my sophomore season where I think I averaged 23 points per game, and I just never thought it'd be like this.
Did you save the article where it mentioned you in the top 100? Because Newsday is a very big deal. Newsday is the home paper for Long Island. I mean, were you able to save that newspaper clipping?
Of course I saved it. It's in my house. I'm in Florida right now, but it's in my house somewhere.
I believe you. I could see it. Listen, I talk with a lot of people around the world. Go ahead, Brad. Jump in.
I got to add more, all right, because, listen, James giving us kind of like the little I'll give you more, all right? That's my job today. Listen, if you really want to know how much this means to James, he frequently will mention that he has 3 all-counties and I have none. He'll make sure to let me know, right, that he has it and I don't.
You have the poster, though, but you have the poster, which I do have the
poster. Listen, Tom. I one thing about James, and he's being, giving you all the right answers. All right, is that he will try to check you, but I will check him right back. Because yes, I do have a poster, and yes, I have had a successful college career. he has more of the accolades when it comes to, Newsday Top 100 multiple season, not just one, multiple. Conference Player of the Year. That's something that not everybody wins.
Listen, we've had people on at even like a Doug Levy, for example. I mean, Doug Levy famously, and James, you may or may not have heard of Doug Levy. He played at John Jay College, went on to play professionally in Israel, is doing some work at Northwestern. And this guy at high school didn't even average 10 points a game. I mean, he went out and became one of the greatest players that ever played in the entire history of CUNY, not just at John Jay, but in CUNY. So, I mean, listen, not everybody goes and has those accolades. So I'll definitely say that the Brute Force is spot on about that there is a fair play to that.
100%. And listen, all county 3 years, I mean, as a sophomore as well, that's nothing to sneeze at either. So, his individual accomplishments definitely speak for themselves. But, one thing that I was always hard on him about, especially because I knew, individual-wise, I knew he did the work for himself. It was always about the team goals for him. It was about what were you guys going to do as a team? How are you going to get better in this area as a team, this better as a team? And that's one thing that, again, you could look at James's numbers, just say he was a great player, right, individually. Okay, but if you really look at how the team ascended over the years, it's not just because of James' statistics. It's also because of James' leadership and what he did for the team. It wasn't just scoring, by the way. If you look at his numbers, assists
I would say 6 or 7 assists a game, like 4 or 5 rebounds a game. I mean,
steals. He had steals in games. So he did a little bit of everything, and that's one thing that And again, he mentioned earlier in the show, which did make me proud, is that he became a better defender, and that's one thing. One of the first things I told him when I started challenging him is that you got to play some damn defense, James. Like, he was an okay defender, but he wasn't great. But I tried to challenge him on that end, and now that he's gotten to be a better defender, now that's why he's at Mr. Cordy, and that's why he's a college basketball player.
But he's going to need that, because to be a D3 basketball player, like I said, not like going to Duke and North Carolina, hey, you can coast, you can ride. No, to be a D3 basketball player, almost with the exception of Ryan Terrell, nobody's guaranteed those minutes. Nobody's guaranteed anything. You could be a starter, a superstar in high school, then you go to this college, and if you don't do those certain things that the Brute Force is talking about, we've spoke with hundreds of coaches, hundreds of players here on Sportswire, you ain't going nowhere. So at the end of the day, you got to be a two-way player, and that's why we're very honored to have one James DeSimone here. Of course, he is on his way to bigger and better things for Misericordia University, and you can follow James again on Instagram at JamesDeSimone_. Also, it's on Instagram and Twitter, and my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. Also, again, the Brute Force Brad Weiss, who's known at James DeSimone almost better than anybody here because he's coached alongside him. He's taught him all the things to do, all the don'ts to do, and everything else in between. And the Brute Force, of course, a legendary player for our SJLI Golden Eagles men's basketball team. He sits 27th all-time in school history and rebounds. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. And if you like what you hear from us on Sportswire Radio, you can give us a follow on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, YouTube at Sportswire Radio, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/play. We're having a great time here with James DeSimone. But I'll come back to a couple of things here for a second, James, and I'll also let the Brute Force ask you some things. But I did have a playful tongue-in-cheek comment from somebody, guy John Gonzalez. He is the host and owner of the Sports Authority on Facebook. And he says to you, James, and everybody else, did you ever hear of Herrick's High School? I mean, have you heard about this story where obviously our team here at Plainview basically was almost like the forfeit rule, the no mercy rule and such? Remember, like playing in Little League, they had that no mercy forfeit rule. They probably should have had that when it was Plainview and Herrick's late last year, early this year. But what do you want to say toward that? I mean, anything you heard, any stories, James, about that whole Plainview Herrick's matchup?
I never have. No, I want to learn more about it. What happened?
All right, well, can you answer the question first? Answer the question. What do you know about Herrick's, by the way? John Gonzalez, to answer the question before James does, James faced Herrick's multiple times, so he has also played them. So talk about your experience playing Herrick's for John.
Herrick's, great school. One of my friends there. We had a tough battle against them. We won. It was a low-scoring game, all defense, and I think we won by 4 points. It was a tough battle, but I'm curious about this story, Brad.
All right, so basically it's not a story. All right, basically what happened last year is that we were playing JV against Herrick's. Obviously, they were in our conference. And the second time around, Herrick's played very poorly, and we ended up playing one of our best games of the year, and we won by 40 points. Now, John Gonzalez, of all people, right, is getting on me thinking that I overdid it and it should have taken it easy on them, right? And basically I've put them into deep depression. So just talk about, what you think about what John Gonzalez is accusing me of, because every time something comes up, he's going to remind me about this game against Herrick's High School. They played poorly. My guys played well. That's the story. Talk about it, James.
No, I think you're trying to beat your opponent, whatever it takes.
Listen. Let me just say this to John Gonzalez, because we have another high school player here, so he knows the high school landscape just like I do. Okay, when you win games at those margins, right? Especially at the varsity level, you even have to sometimes report it into BOCES, the people who run the league, about why you did it. So it's not like anyone wants to beat anyone by that much, because you have to report it and tell them why. Now, in this case, right, I didn't really try to win by 40. They lost by 40. That's not my fault. So listen,
all right.
What I'm saying is this, okay? If I was just telling my kids to just keep going, then that's different. But John Gonzalez, you weren't even at the game. You don't even know anything about what happened at that game, and you're accusing me of this. All right? Watch it, John Gonzalez. Watch it. That's all I got to say.
Okay, but when you're up 28, when you're up 30 or 32, is there a point that you say – now, I'm just asking just to be objective. I'm not trying to take a side. I'm curious because we talk in different spots all the time on Sportswire. But when you're in that moment, when the game is pretty much – it's over. It's not going anywhere. They're not going to come back. When you're up, let's say 28, 30, or 32, is there ever a point that you say, you know what? The game is over and, let everybody else play. Okay, so that's talk about that.
And the crazy part, once again, about this was that, and this is another problem with John Gonzalez, and James knows this because he's experienced this, okay? One of the best experiences being on a team, especially in high school, is when those guys who never play get an opportunity to play and they succeed. Like when you're the guy like James, and I was one of those players that always was on the court, and you got guys who are in practice every day working their butts off.
Well, I was saying, Charles, listen,
those versions of like
games. It was like Mark Roberts Jr., your old teammate, right. Nick Nemekis from Plainview, Chris Connors. There were guys that, listen, you're up by 20, 22 points, whatever it is, like a minute and 30 some odd seconds left, and you put those guys in. I get it.
Absolutely. And listen, like you're rooting for the Nick Nemekis and the Chris Connors of the world, right? Because those guys, again, you don't see them on the court every game. You see them in practice every day, and you see how hard and how badly they want it. And those kids, actually, John Gonzalez, let me make sure you understand. All right, the kids that weren't on the court all season got to play the entire fourth quarter. And what am I supposed to do? Tell them not to play basketball and basically stop? Like, listen. They are getting an opportunity that they haven't gotten all season. And James will talk about some of his teammates like the Ryan Gambiers of the world and some of the other guys that didn't get to play a lot, right? But when they were on the court, the fans went nuts every single time he scored because they know how much they care. And, they understand, right, that those are the kids that are not playing a lot. And when they get their opportunity, you want them to succeed. So that's a part of the experience. That's one of the best parts about being on a team, Tom, is those guys that are not getting that opportunity when they go and they succeed. And and especially for me, another story with Jonah Caldwell, when he was not playing a lick, right? And every time he came on the court, I would cheer him on because he was the guy who was pushing me in practice every day. I could have been
thinking about guys we've had on the show, guys that you played with that all of a sudden in college, they all of a sudden kind of just blossomed or play. Alan Duratovic to me is the biggest example. That here was a guy that his first 3.5 years played a cup of coffee in college, and all of a sudden, last 15 games in college, he becomes like a legitimate player. Even Fitzpatrick. Now Fitzpatrick had one amazing year, but those first 3 years he played, but not to the level of, let's say, even you did at college. And all of a sudden, of course, Fitzpatrick goes on and becomes just, a great, great player. But I mean, there are stories all the time that, that happens.
And to make my final point before we get back to James here, because I actually like to hear what he has to say about this, is that, listen, this might be James DeSimone's freshman year, right? When he gets his name called, right, in a 30-point game or 25-point game, 25-point, losing by 25, right? What do you want him to do? Not play? He's trying to earn minutes. He's trying to earn the coach's trust. He's trying to prove something.
Well, let's hope James isn't in that situation.
We obviously hope not. But what I'm saying is, to compare it to the Herrick's game that he keeps alluding to, okay, those kids have something to play for. They wanted to show me. So listen, all right, get out of here, John Gonzalez. All right, listen, it's part of basketball, and it's one thing that James can appreciate. is when those guys who he worked against in practice go into the game and they succeed. And again, those opportunities and those moments are one of the moments that I remember. Like, those are the moments I remember. I remember Jonah Caldwell coming into those games early on and performing. And then you remember what he did the last game of his career.
Well, 29 points. I mean, certainly what Jonah did.
But it doesn't start without, starting somewhere. It's got to be a start point. So Juan Gonzalez's point here, what I'm trying to get to is that could be something that James is going to experience. He may need to get that opportunity, right, to push himself to become a player at the college. For my JV team, surprisingly, those kids that played and did well in that fourth quarter, even though it looks like I killed them and took them out of the gym, right? They played well, and some of those kids ended up getting a bigger role later in the season.
Okay, all right. Well, listen, those are some fair points. I mean, I'll certainly say touche to that, but I guess I should ask you, James, are you prepared? If that's you, it's your. I mean, let's hope that's not you, right? You're in the situations where you play, 20 minutes the whole season in college. That's tough. That's tough to sit there on that bench and to watch those guys play ahead of you, because obviously in high school we spoke about all these accomplishments. But I mean, is that something you've mentally prepared for? Like, what if?
Of course. I've been competing with my brother since I was in third grade. So I love competing. So in practice, if I get the opportunity, I'm going to try and make something happen.
All right, well, let's hope, though, you don't have to be in that situation. Let's hope your team recognizes what you do on the court. Obviously, I'll leave that to Coach Wilson. But speaking of coaches, I wanted to ask you about before I give it to the brute force here in a few minutes. And I had to bring up Ed and Kelly Dempsey because obviously they've meant a lot to you. They've meant a lot to Brad. And frankly, they've meant a lot to me and everybody else here on Sportswire, because we've had on Kelly Dempsey a couple of times. And Kelly Dempsey, speaking about people who kill it everywhere. I mean, Kelly does everything with making waves in women's basketball, her work with the Level Up Basketball organization, and her own family involvement in the game of basketball on Long Island is legendary, especially here in Nassau at the Nassau County PAL here, especially with Hicksville and everything else. And I mean, talk about the Dempsey family and how important they've also been in your journey.
Kelly has helped me so much to the point where I thank her all the time. She helped me set up this Twitter. I had no idea how to edit these videos and do any of this stuff.
Yeah, she's good at that stuff. She's very good at that stuff. I will tell you firsthand.
She showed me everything. She showed me how, with the huddle, and then we posted on YouTube. We posted on Twitter, everywhere. She's amazing for that. And Ed's a legend in the Long Island community.
Oh, he's done for basketball. He's still going out there. I mean, he still shoots him hoops. I mean, God bless Ed Dempsey, because this guy is still going.
He's great. I still want that one-on-one with Ed, and he knows. But me and him, I see him all the time. I see him every Monday, and I'm just so thankful for the opportunity. He actually gave me a few books. I read What Costs Winning, or The Cause of Winning, and I read it last year, and it was amazing. I learned so much from it. And I still have to give it back to him, actually, which I will.
All right, fair enough. And obviously, even the mother gets involved also, because she helps out here with the scoreboard and the bookkeeping of the games and such. So, I mean, it's a family affair there, really, at the Nassau County PAL. And speaking of coaches, I had to bring up Level Up Basketball, because obviously the both of you guys have been such an important part of that. And I wanted to ask you, James, and you're really one of the more prized recruits there, as Brad's bringing up the slides of all the different accomplishments and different memories you have there. And we had on Jesse Winter a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, Coach Winter, legendary player in his own right. One of the few guys I should also add in the list that basically was a star player from day one, and did that at a program that very few people get a chance to do that at SUNY Cortland. And obviously, I'm sure you're aware of that, James. But I wanted to talk about what Level Up Basketball has meant to you, and also Coach Jesse Winter.
Level Up has given me countless opportunities, from playing there from 10th grade to now still, and to coaching with Brad. Jesse's taught me so much about the game. Every conversation with Jesse is meaningful, and he means a lot to me. And then now assistant coaching with Brad, amazing. Me and Brad are complete opposites in certain ways.
I see. Yeah, you guys are kind of opposite. I get to know you here for an hour. I could kind of see you guys are definitely opposites here. I would never have guessed.
Yeah. But, it works perfectly in practice, which Brad definitely has something to say about.
All right, but have you asked before I get to Brett? Have you asked Coach Winter for any advice on going? Because obviously he went away also for college. Now, obviously he's one of the very few people I would say that from right at the very beginning of his career to the end of his career was a great player and also won a lot of basketball games and even played professionally. So I mean, what Coach did is in rarefied air. I mean, we're talking about not quite Ryan Terrell, but maybe Brad the next level below a Ryan Terrell. That shows you the kind of career that he had. But I mean, have you asked Coach Winter for any advice or anything else in terms of your transition going away?
Of course, he's definitely taught me a lot. I used to text him all the time about when I was in the recruiting process, and he definitely said like whatever feels right to you, and that's how I picked Misericordia.
And he didn't try to get you to go to Cortland?
I tried. I went to a few camps. I went to the one camp, and it was all right, but I think Misericordia is definitely the better fit.
I think you look pretty good in some golden bear tiger there, and I think that attire you have on is going to certainly bode well for the next few years. But I've gotten I was about to get to you actually, but go ahead. I was actually
No, I
about
wanted to ask a quick follow-up to this before we get to my questions.
Sure.
Oh, you can see it, James, all right, with Jesse, because I know you didn't talk directly about it, but I want you to right now, is that look how many championships you guys had while you were playing with Jesse, including obviously one of our most accomplished teams that went to Orlando and played in the AAU World Championships and finished in 5th place of all AAU teams at that age. So can you just talk to us about your experience as a player with Jesse and obviously the team that went to Florida and competed in the AAU Championships? Talk about that experience.
We had a phenomenal run in Orlando. We had a great team: Alex, Michael, Justin.
Alex Guarnarecci, right? I believe because we see him all the time pop up, right? Is that the same person we're thinking of?
No, different person. That's one of my from school. But Alex Wilson, I think his last name is.
Okay.
But no, we had a phenomenal run, and that was one of the most. That was a time I will never forget. It was a fun time to play that much basketball. I think in 4 days you play like 12 games. It's definitely a lot.
Wow. Yeah. Now, what's that like though? Because we cover a lot of things on Sportswire. I speak with a lot of people around the world, as you may or may not know. And 12 basketball games in 4 days, I mean, how are you able to kind of do that and the endurance? And it seems like a lot. I mean, I interview people, right, who do, let's say, 2 wrestling matches in 1 day, which is a lot, right? But 12 basketball games in 4 days, I mean, how are you able to kind of pull yourself through that?
Yeah, it's a lot of wear and tear on the body. I think I actually hurt my back during that time, and I took about 2 months off after that, which was hard, but we got through it. It's tough. It's kind of just things you have to deal with as an athlete.
What was that experience like going to Orlando to be a traveling team from Long Island? What was that memory like?
It was super fun, super fun. Me and the team got super close during that time, being with each other all the time. It was a fun experience.
Did that spark your experience in any way of wanting to play outside from home permanently?
Yeah, now that I think about it, yeah, it definitely did. It made me realize that it's good to be on your own. You definitely learn.
What has your family meant to you?
They meant everything. They supported me. They take me to my games. They always supported me. Every time my mom and my dad are always there. And for them, it's like it's not just me on the court. They're with me.
I could see that it means a lot when I asked you that question. Yeah. And how much are you going to miss them?
I'll miss them. My mom tells me she's going to come to every game, but we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully she does.
Well, listen, you certainly have great parents there, and I could see that you're going to go on and do bigger and better things. But, I've asked you a lot of questions by now, James, and I'm going to, on a lighter note, kind of dial it down a little bit here and bring back to the brute force Brad was. Because I know in this spot, usually we get Brad and he kind of asks some questions. Some of them might be hard hitting. Some of them might be for fun. Some of them, who knows how he came up with them. But I want to turn it over to you now, the brute force Brad Weiss, because you get the opportunity to ask James some questions. Hopefully you don't pepper him too hard because he still is a young whippersnapper who's on his way to playing college basketball here in a few short months. But Brad, I'm going to give you the opportunity now to talk to James because this is kind of one of the spots where everybody likes to catch us, whether it's on YouTube, Instagram, and everywhere else out there. So the floor is yours, Brad.
Yeah, absolutely. So, no, I can't go easy on young whippersnappers. I mean, listen, I'm gonna
Well,
ask.
I use it because there's a wrestler, Stone Cold Steve Austin, would call some of the younger wrestlers whippersnappers. I'm like, you know what? He has a show also called the Broken Skull Sessions. I'm like, you know what? At this point, I'm kind of like that in England, so I thought it was a good way to kind of throw it to you, Brad.
Oh, it
Talk
is.
about
It
that.
is for sure. So, listen, let me start with this. I'm going to start with a little storytelling. All right.
All right.
But I'm going to prelude it by saying this. All right. And I know everybody's heard this term and this kind of saying before. All right. If you can't beat them, join them. So that's kind of like the title of this story. Okay. Now, you guys are seeing behind me, like you guys can see that James was a young kid. He's got a championship medal on him in that picture over there. And there's a reason why he's wearing it. And I think the reason why was because he was coached by the brute force at a young age.
I knew this was going somewhere.
Yeah. With that being said, I'm going to go back to the camp, and I alluded to this story earlier. Okay. When James was first in the camp at a young age, and again, I told you guys about how every week I look for his name on the attendance sheet, right? All right. Oh, here we go. I'll get to that in a second. All right. But listen, every week I look for his name on the attendance sheet, right? I was wondering if he'd ever get on my team. And for the first couple of weeks that he was there, he was not a part of my team. And as I told you, he would be the kid that every time he made a shot, he'd look at me, he'd talk crap. He was that type of kid. And, I gained some respect from him because, he was out there like proving something like, yeah, I'm that guy. Like every time you talk, I'm going to talk back, whatever, blah, blah. And like I told you, it was one-on-one. So a few years went on, or at least a year went on. And, every time he made the playoffs against my teams in the camp, he could never get past me, Tom Bryce. So what ended up happening? Okay, I got him on my team. Okay, a few years later, and what happened, Tom Bryce? We won not one, but 2 camp championships.
So you're saying a Kevin Durant, basically. He pulled a Kevin Durant here.
Somewhat, even though I was the one who picked him on my team, I will say that. Okay, but like I said, if you can't beat him, which he couldn't beat me, join him because he got on my team and won. So James, we talked about the camp before, but I want you to talk more to our audience about, one, the experience in the camp when it came to that story, and also what it means to now also be a counselor in that camp with some of these kids now that attend our camp, right, and look to you as their counselor and their coach.
That camp has so much meaning to me. That camp's the best part of my summer. Seeing Brad every day, seeing my friends every day, everyone who works the camp. To be from going to a 3rd grader to an 8th grader all the way through camp to then become a counselor, it's like I grew up in that camp. So everything about it's amazing. My favorite part is coaching it. I like doing the ball handling drills. That's more me. Brad's more of the rebounding type of guy. But I like to have fun.
I'm not surprised on any of that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. It's fun. I love what's one-on-one with the coaches. That's my favorite part. I get to cook up the kids.
Okay.
And there's a reason why he likes that part because he was the guy that challenged the coaches when he was a young kid, and obviously the coaches would beat him up. So now he wants to get it back on the kids and beat the kids. So
that's like anything else in life. It's almost like a domino effect, right? I mean, if you kind of get beaten at something and then you want to kind of pass it to the next person, it's almost like an apprenticeship in a way. It's kind of how it goes almost.
Now, James, I need a better direct answer to this question. Okay, when I mentioned the story about how you couldn't beat me, but then you ended up beating me. Remember one of those coaches. By the way, John Gonzalez's eyes will light up. All right, when I say this, okay. But one of his first coaches, Tom Bryce, that he couldn't beat me with was a gentleman named Jordan Adaspi, who went to Herrick's High School. Okay. So,
oh my God.
Okay, and he could not beat me with him. So, James, talk about the story of not being able to beat me and then winning the 2 championships. I want you to directly talk about that story.
I hate to say it, but Brad did win. Brad beat me. Brad, you did win. Jordan was great, though. Jordan was a great coach.
Okay. And what was I then? Talk about it.
You, Ben, me and you, Steve Kerr.
That's right. You hear that, Tom? Steve Kerr, Steph Curry. So, listen, that was what we were in that camp.
Wow.
But I want to go forward now because I want to stay with this specific camp, but I want to talk more in a different sense. So when we talk about, we talked about Ed and Kelly Dempsey and how much they mean to us about running the camp, but there's people behind the scenes that do a great job in that Hicksville Athletic Center, like Tommy, one of the guys who works in the building, like James Cronin, who we know very well.
We know James Cronin very well from the Sportzwire podcast.
Like Joe Sarney. So I want you to talk about the staff at the Hicksville Athletic Center, what they mean to you, not only from, obviously being in that, Hicksville Athletic Center, which we all know is a second home for a lot of us, but just people who work there and how much they mean to us succeeding at our jobs and also the opportunities they've given us to work in that gym and be able to get better.
They've supported me so much. Like, Tommy even gave me a pair of shoes after winning the Fall League championship. Cronin, they're always texting me, checking in on me, making sure I'm good. Cronin kept texting me all the time, hey, did you commit yet? Did you commit yet? They just always support me, always behind me. I love it.
For sure. And that's one thing about that place, Tom, that's special. It's not just about what type of programs we're running, but it's also the people behind the scenes that do a great job at supporting us and obviously making it successful. So that certainly means a lot. Let's now go to another guy who, by the way, attended camp. We didn't talk about him yet, or the other guy Tom alluded to, but two of your best friends, Jason Getz, who has been on this show before, and Alex, whose last name I will not pronounce either. I'll be like, Tom, I will refuse. All right, so talk about Jason Getz and Alex. These are two of your best friends, James, and what they've meant to you throughout your life.
Oh, my goodness. Me and Jason go all the way back. Jason's always humbling me, telling me, James, you can't guard me. Always joking with me, always me all the time. They're two people that I know for a fact I'm going to be friends with throughout my life.
Absolutely. So I wanted to bring this up right now because I want to talk about something else specifically, okay, when it comes to our relationship. So I want you, because a lot of people kind of are starting to see like what type of friendship / coaching relationship we built, but I want you to talk to our listeners about kind of the bond that we built as a brotherhood and also about what type of coach and how my style of coaching is like. As you said, we have differences. So I want you to talk to the people more about my coaching style and how you've enjoyed learning from that. Because there are people listening out there that are either, players of mine or people that want to learn from me in the future or you actually in the future. So talk about kind of my coaching style and how you've learned from it and how you've evolved from it.
Our bond is something that not many people could ever say they have. From being able to coach me, but also be my brother. Like, our bond is amazing. He could be super hard on me, make me do thousands of push-ups in one sitting. But then next day we're going to a Mets game together, having a blast. And it's just something that I wish everyone could experience. The connection me and Brad have, it's truly amazing.
Absolutely. So you kind of mentioned the push-ups. Talk about a brute force Brad Weiss training session, how those are like and what you've learned from them and kind of the approach that we've taken in those sessions. For people that want to learn, and maybe some kids out there that potentially want to get a training session or want to learn in this type of way, how have you learned kind of how those training sessions have been done and what have you disliked and liked about them through your experience? Because there's kids out there listening or parents of kids listening and trying to learn, how do they approach it? How do they learn? How do they train? Talk about that and those approaches and how you liked and disliked some of the things we did in our training sessions, specifically basketball-wise, obviously.
One thing that you've always done that I'm going to do with my kids when I train is the first thing you say, hey, what do you want to work on today? You give me options, and then obviously I'm picking what I think is best for my game. And once I know that, wait, did it cut off? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So once we know what I have to work on, and then we're going as hard as possible for an hour and a half, whatever we need to work on, as many push-ups as I need, which Brad loves to make me do push-ups, but I love them too. It helped me get stronger, which was a main focus of mine, was gaining weight for college. Which you're doing a great job of leading me into my next question. All right, so that's exactly what I wanted to ask. I wanted to talk about your transformation
from high school to college. Obviously, we've talked about what it will take basketball-wise, but I want you to talk about what you've done, right, to evolve your game and also transform your body to get prepared for college. So talk about that to the audience and talk about what that takes as well, because there's some kids, again, some high schoolers that want to take the same steps as you, right, want to know, like, what does it take to take that next step to college, and what are you doing to take that next step? It involves your body and some of the working out that you're doing on your own.
Yeah, like me and you have had so many conversations about the physicality from high school to college. It's a totally different game. So my main goal was, once the high school season ended, was to put as much weight as possible. My goal was to get to 165. So right now I'm about 168. I'm going to get to 170, then cut down a little bit. But my goal, I have to keep that athleticism while also getting stronger, because I'm going to be going against a bunch of brute forces.
I was going to say, especially up there in Scranton, PA, you're going to get a lot of the, how can I put this, the backyard wrestler types that we have on Sportswire. Probably about 6'3" and like 220, and in this case, like Brad, though, with muscle.
100%. So you've evolved to be able to, the physicality of the game, be able to play in the next level.
Sure.
So it's a lot of out. What are you saying, Brad?
No, I was going to transition to my next question right away. All right, because this is something, by the way, you guys heard Jason Gaudiezo refer to him as DeSo, which is his nickname. Not as good as the brute force, obviously, not even close. But, it's DeSo, okay? So, Tom Bryce, I want James to tell the audience, all right, because he has this term that supposedly everybody knows at Clark High School. It's called DeSo range, okay? So I want you to talk about DeSo range and what that is and what people need to know about it.
It started off in practice. I shoot a bunch of threes, but my three-point line's a little deeper than the high school three-point line. So I shoot them and I make them, and people would have to respect that. So then I forgot who said it, but then someone mentioned DeSo range, and it just stuck ever since.
Anyway, Tom, just to know, it's basically, in his terms, the volleyball line that's behind the three-point line is supposed to be DeSo range. So that's something that I heard when I was, listening to him.
We should ask about that, Coach Kelly Dempsey, because she coaches volleyball, by the way. She coached volleyball. I think she would be the perfect person to ask that next time she comes back to Sportswire.
Yeah, we'll see what she has to say about that and whether James can officially make shots in there, which he can, to his credit. So that is a thing when it comes to DeSo range. So now, speaking of DeSo range things, I want to give you some trivia here. I want to talk about a few different things. All right, kind of rapid fire here. I kind of normally try to do this with some of the guys. So number one, all right, I want to make sure I get all these questions in. All right, your favorite type of food.
Ooh, I want to hear this. I'm dying to hear this, guy.
A Chipotle burrito.
Wow, I didn't expect Chipotle. I mean, Gordon Scheuer was the Chick-fil-A type, but the Chipotle burrito. Okay,
so
next time I pass by a Chipotle.
I'm Italian, so I have to say Italian, which I do love.
Right. So your favorite type of food is Italian, but Tom, his favorite place and if he was to eat is Chipotle. This guy goes to Chipotle all the time. And that was kind of another question I was going to ask, but he loves this Chipotle, and I actually had it tonight, so maybe that's kind of in his honor. But anyway,
wow! So you really went to Chipotle in honor of James DeSimone, or just was
no? But that's what I wanted for dinner. But anyway, to get to the next question, James, favorite type of music and a specific song that you like.
All right, I want to hear this. This is a good one.
Right now on the Florida relaxing vibe, so I've been listening to more country, some more Morgan Wallen.
He's got the #1 album in America for, I think, 8 straight weeks. In fact, he's been #1 for so long that Metallica, of all people, couldn't knock him off the charts. That's how big this guy is right now.
He's great. Tom, you listen to him?
I mean, I've heard a song or two. I can't say I've got it on my playlist. I just know about it from, he's got the biggest album in America right now, 8 straight weeks.
Yeah, he's great. Just because I usually listen to more like rap, hip hop, but since I'm in Florida, it's more country. Usually depends where I am. So right now I'm listening to the song "More Than My Hometown" by him. That's a good one.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard about that one. Okay, that makes sense. All right, that's a good one. All right, that was a good one, Brad. All right, what else you got?
I like that. So this one, you guys will get to hear now. So the question to you, Tom, or to James actually, is favorite number. Now, there's a reason why, and I want you to explain to our audience why your favorite number is what it is. So, James, go ahead.
So my number is number 4. I actually never told this to anyone ever, actually. So it was because my uncle, who I consider that he kind of taught me how to play basketball, and really like. So then when I was in 3rd grade, he left and he went to the Philippines, and then I
Oh
was
wow.
I was for him, so I was like for you, so that's why I just chose number 4. And then he came back not too long ago, maybe 2 years, 3 years ago, and then he got to see me play, got to see my success. So that was a really good feeling for it.
Oh, it's pretty
Interesting.
cool. That's a
I haven't
really,
heard that story, but can
that's
you also tell us why you like number 4 and another reason? Because there is a player that you like specifically that I know you want to talk about.
My favorite player of all time, the GOAT, no question, Isaiah Thomas of the Boston
Oh, you're
Celtics.
the second person I've heard that today about Isaiah Thomas. God, tell us why.
Undersized guard. I love the way he plays. I love his swag. I love everything about him. How he really just put him and the Celtics in 2017, favorite year. Now, I'm not even a Celtics fan too, but he made me a Celtics fan.
Was that the year they went to the finals?
No, they unfortunately lost to LeBron in the Eastern Conference.
In the conference finals, right?
Yeah, tough year. I hate to see what happened to him. He moved a couple teams, and now he's out the league, which I don't like to talk about too much, but you know.
All right, I got a few more. All right, a few more, and then I'll hand it back. All right. Oh God, this guy. Give me a break. We all know that's not. All right. Listen, next one, real quick. For Jason Getz, because I know he's going to listen to this, and I know he wants to hear this. So everyone needs to hear the answer to this question. Okay. What is the best part of the pizza? Is it the pizza or is it the crust?
Ooh, I want to hear this one because I'm obviously a Brooklyn guy who knows a lot about pizzas. I want to hear this one, so go ahead.
Brad, I'm so happy you asked. You know, in memory of Jason, of course it's the pizza. Who eats the pizza for the crust? You eat it for the pizza first. But Jason gets, he likes the crust better, but I don't know about that one, Tom.
Jason Getz, just to let you know, Tom, Jason Getz will go as far as to eat the crust first before the pizza.
Well, that is almost like the same thing as when people eat pizza with a fork and a knife. I mean, that's to me almost criminal. That's, we had a mayor here that did that in the city of New York, and that's kind of why automatically people felt a certain way about him. But no, I could never imagine eating pizza, the crust first. I mean, people like, for example, if you like a square, you might like a corner square. It's very old school kind of thing in Brooklyn, but I think you go for the pizza first. So I'm with you actually on that. And I could never imagine, with all due respect to Jason Getz, actually eating the crust first, then the pizza. I mean, that's, again, to me, the equivalent of like eating pizza with a knife.
It's a crime.
Tom, I have a question for you. I have a question for Tom.
Go ahead.
The grandma slice or the regular triangle slice? Which is better?
The regular triangle?
Yeah, the regular slice.
Regular slice. Almost 9 out of 10 times. Because grandma, there's only certain places that do a good grandma. Joe and Pat's in Staten Island does a good grandma. Probably a great grandma. There's a place that one of our buddies on Sportzwire, Steve Saperstein, his friends own, called Lucia Pizza. It's on Avenue X and East 22nd Street. They make an unbelievable grandma slice, but it's a specialty slice. But, I mean, if you're talking pizza, you got to go the old school, no frills, round slice.
I like that.
All right, now I want to get to this. I only have 2 more left, so I want to ask this one.
Well, somebody wanted to say, if you want the crust, just get more damn bread.
Yeah, exactly, Kyle Bruce, exactly. All right, please tell Jason Getz. All right, but anyway, listen, I wanted to ask this question, but I also want to add something else that we haven't talked about yet. So we kind of talked about your parents. We talked about Uncle Dave a little bit, which I'd like you to allude on more in this conversation. But my initial question was going to be New York or Florida, because I know you're in Florida. And the one thing there's a part of a reason why you're in Florida, and that's because your brother went to college there. And you also know where he went to college. So I want you to talk to the audience where he went to college. Also, I want you to talk about your brother and your parents as well, and why that New York or Florida question is even being asked by me, which you know why.
Okay.
He goes to FAU. Big school. He loves it.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, we know a lot about that school recently. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
March
Okay.
Madness. They came in fourth. They lost right before the finals, which was obviously
The Final Four. Yep. And one of our buddies on Sportswire, guy Ernest Dove, he's a big booster of the program. He goes to the football games all the time, and he does some like minor league writing kind of stuff for the Mets organization. He's a huge Florida Lamb. He was a fan of them even before you've seen all this success, even with the football team as well, because the football team was nationally ranked as well these last 2 years.
really. Yeah,
Yep.
It's a great school. It's beautiful. I love Florida. It's just in the summer it's a little too hot for me. I know, Brad, you went to Miami recently. How do you like Florida?
I like Florida, but I like Florida and I like Miami, but right now, and to answer the question, which you'll answer, it's New York. All right, and right now it's New York stand up. All right, and I'll get to that question in a second. But New York or Miami, or Florida, I should say, James, because your family obviously obviously lives in New York, but loves Florida. So which one is it? Which one's better?
It's a tough one, but I have to go New York.
You got to go New York. You know what? I get asked this question all the time. And one of our friends, Anthony Finkel, has a house down there in Florida. One of my longtime buddies, Daniel Slavin, moved and got a job after college. He's working for an accounting firm out there. And Steve Saperstein, his parents moved down there. But as a New Yorker, I get asked this all the time. Look, my brother even lived in Florida for like almost a year, 5 years ago, and came back. I just, as a New Yorker, could never imagine going really anywhere else, despite all the problems or all the things that you might see in New York. It's New York. To me, I got to go with New York, despite everything else what everybody might say and what's going on. So I think that's the only answer, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I agree. So now to go kind of into the next step of this, okay? Because we all know that the New York Knicks are playing the Miami.
That one, yeah.
All right. Oh boy. All right, John. All right, whatever. Listen, New York against Miami right now in the NBA playoffs. Talk about to our audience, because by the way, you were a Miami Heat fan growing up. So I want you to talk to the audience about why you were a Miami Heat fan and who exactly are you rooting for in this series, because I honestly don't know.
I was like saying the same thing because last week we announced you, James. Brad says you're a Miami Heat fan. Then we're in an Instagram group together, and you're basically rooting for the Knicks. I'm like, is there a joke here? Like, are you trying to pull a rib on Brad? I mean, talk about this because actually I'm fascinated by this.
So Knicks, number one favorite team, but number two is the Heat. So them going against each other right now is huge. But so when I was younger, LeBron James still one of my favorite players.
Took his talents to South Beach. Yes, remember it like yesterday. Go ahead.
Partially is because James on the back, so I would wear it to elementary school, show it to all my classmates, and they'd be like, "Oh, look, your name's on the back," and I thought that was so cool. But yeah, so Miami's definitely number two, but I do have the Knicks in 6 for everyone that needs to know.
All right,
you still feel that way even after right now where the Knicks just crawled and got a win here, and they're now going to South Beach where Miami's going to certainly, I think, have some momentum. You still feel confident in that choice?
I'm very confident. Jalen Brunson's doing his thing. Julius Randle's back. I'm not sure how his ankle's really feeling, but he looked pretty solid tonight.
All right, well, hold on. I want to, because you're missing a point in the story. How do I know this and you're not saying it? Right? Wasn't there something more specific with Miami? Like there was something in your bedroom potentially that led you to be a Miami Heat fan?
Wow, you really know a lot about this guy. I didn't expect that
Can
one.
we talk about more about why you're a Miami Heat fan? Because I know that there was something, right, that led you to be a Heat fan. You had posters, you had different things like that. Like, talk about that.
Wow. Brad, I don't know what you're talking about.
I know this. I know this.
Wow.
What I'm going to say is this, all right? It's more than just this story, all right? It's more than this. Hold on with Dolan time, all right?
It is Dolan time, actually. We're talking Knicks Heat, but I'm fascinated. I mean, what do you know, Brad, that people on sports...
What I know is that it's not just this. Like, James actually really liked the Miami Heat. Like, he was actually... You know,
well,
again,
a couple of championships. I mean, I can understand why. Yeah. I mean, they've been to the finals a bunch of times.
He's kind of like sugarcoating it and saying, "Oh, well, you know, I'm a Knicks fan. I like Miami second." No, he really was a Miami Heat fan. Like he was rooting for Miami when he was a kid. He had a poster, all right, somewhere in his house. I know it. So listen, All right, he could laugh it off, like say he doesn't know about it, but I know about it. Okay,
You have a Udonis Haslam jersey? Is that what it is? I mean,
no.
I know you like Dwayne Wade too. I know you like Wade.
well,
he
was a great player, though. I mean, that's an obvious one. I mean,
he's one of my favorite players.
There you go. So I'm just saying, there's more to the story, Tom. There's more to the story.
Are you for that? Like my PlayStation username is Miami Heat 3030. Is that what you're?
It was something. I know it was something. And see, Tom, I got to pull it out of him. That's part of this, but there is something.
all right. I mean, look, I could see that. I mean, Dwayne Wade was, again, I would say, of playoff players, one of the best of all time. And those Heat teams, I mean, Dwayne Wade carried them. I mean, I even think about the first championship they won before James's time. Brad, you might have vaguely remembered it with Shaquille O'Neal, and that was really, to me, Dwayne Wade's team. I mean, so I could certainly see why he put in Dwayne Wade. And I mean, John Gonzalez says Knicks in 7, but I mean, you confident, James? Knicks in 6, though? I don't know. I mean, I would say it might go the distance.
6 or 7. Going back to now we're in the Heat. The Heat's home, so you never know. Never know.
How are you feeling, though, Brad, of all people? Because we're actually kind of waiting to know what this.
This pains me to say, because I don't like to say this. I don't like to say this on any Sportswire show. But I agree with John Gonzalez, and I don't say that a lot. I agree with John. I think it's going to be Knicks in 7. I do think they're going to come back in this series. I know today was a little worrisome because without Butler, they still struggled to beat them.
Yeah, Miami was up 6 with like 7 minutes left. You I listened to the game on the radio, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go again.
I called him Steph Vincent because he looked like Gabe Vincent looked like Steph Curry today for Miami. I mean, Caleb Martin dropped 20 on us. Like, all these guys who, by the way, if you watch the Miami Heat during the season, right, they were literally the 6th or 7th option, right? You talk about Tyler Hero was one of their best players this year. He's not even playing, right? You talk about
cast of autographs. I mean, James, did you sign it by any chance? I mean, I was watching that during the game on Sunday with that big cast he had on. Did you sign that by any chance?
I would. That would have been great.
Yeah, like Victor Oladipo was one of their best scorers this year at times. Like, yep. And listen, what are these rumors? I didn't say that. I mean, listen, I listen. All right, I will say this, okay? I think that they're okay. They had a win tonight. If they lost tonight, then I would agree with John. I would lose confidence after they lost. But they won tonight. It's 1-1. The Knicks have proven they can win on the road. They won in Miami.
They won in Miami this year, to be fair. They have gone in there and won, so I don't think it's impossible. And I kind of think – I say them splitting these two games in Miami.
I agree with you. I think they're going to split in Miami as well. And these games are going to keep coming down to the wire. These are the type of games that Miami against the Knicks have always been. Even when the teams have been, kind of up and down. Obviously the LeBron James years, they made a little more superior to the Knicks. But they've always had close battles. And I think that right now these teams are very, evenly playing right now. So I think these games are going to continue to come close. But I do think that the Knicks will get that Game 7 at the Garden, and they will win it. And that will be a big thing. So Knicks in 7. Even though I don't like the Celtics, I somewhat hope they win so that I can get on Alec Willis on this show. I want him to come on this show.
We're talking about that. We were talking about this off the air, but I don't know now that Philadelphia steals a game in there in Boston, and you almost feel like they're playing with house money. I don't know. Philadelphia steals the first game.
Embiid didn't even play too. That's what I
right.
Kind of crazy.
Exactly. He didn't even play, and you look at it. Right. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is, James, why don't you tell us what you think is going to happen in that series?
After the Sixers won in the Celtics arena, I got to go Sixers now. I'm going Sixers in 7.
I'd say Sixers in 6.
I disagree with both of them. I think the Celtics will still win this series.
Yeah, but your heart wants the Celtics to win so we can bring back Alec Willis on. I feel like that's kind of like the Homer sports.
Actually, I will say this. All right, and I'm waiting for John Gonzalez.
I heard on also. He's a Celtics fan.
Oh, yeah. Listen, bring them all on. Bring on all the Celtics fans. I'll take them down. All right? Listen. All right, Celtics in 7. I think the Celtics will get it done. I actually really think they'll win. I think they learned their lesson from Game 1. I think they'll bounce back.
And what do you think, James? I got to ask you then, what do you think in the two Western series? Denver gets the first two games against Phoenix. I mean, blows them out in game one. Game two is a little closer, but Denver just turns it on in the fourth quarter. Then you've got Golden State and the Lakers, which we were talking about this off the air. I didn't realize this is the first time they're meeting in the playoffs since 1991. I guess just because Steph and LeBron is their fifth time they're playing each other. Obviously, LeBron was with a couple of different other teams, but I mean, what do you see in those two series?
I think all said and done, they're going to be Steph and LeBron, one of the best rivalries. It's going to be like Magic and Bird, in my opinion.
Well, it's the fifth time they face, so I think
Yeah.
arguably it has to be in that category.
Has to be. You know, deep down, I'm a LeBron fan, but it's tough to have faith in them after seeing in the regular season. So I'm gonna go Warriors in 6.
Well, Golden State, the way they won in Sacramento, the way they shut them down in the second half, and I mean, Steph Curry, the way he played, especially scoring 50 points in a game 7, but even other guys for them that did it, and the fact that they won 11 games in the regular season on the road and were able to steal 2 of them on the road in Sacramento in a tough place. Yeah, I kind of think Golden State takes it. I mean, what do you think there, Brad? I mean,
I wanted to reserve my opinion for Friday, but I'll do it right now because I'm honestly I've been going back and forth on this series, but I can't doubt Steph Curry. I can't go against him. He's been so amazing in these playoffs that I just think that he's had the upper hand with LeBron in the past, and I just think as much as the Lakers have played well, and this Austin Reeves story, and the rest of their roster is probably overplaying their expectations. The Warriors have been here before as a team. That core is still together, and I think they're going to continue to succeed. So I see the Warriors winning this series in 7 games as well. But I will prelude this to James. The Denver Nuggets are winning the West, and I think that they have proven to me that.
And they got Jamal Murray healthy now. Think about that. Or they didn't really have him that healthy for most of the season. Now they got him and the Joker.
Exactly, and even in a game when Jamal Murray played horrible, they still won, and Jokic, nobody could stop. I mean, nobody has the answer for him.
I was speaking with somebody today. I was speaking with an ex-coach, and I was speaking with them, and he said, Tom, I don't really like the NBA game much, but there's one player I like to watch. And I said, well, who is it? He goes, Jokic. What he can do with the ball, the way he plays, the way he makes his teammates better, he's just a special player. And he said the same thing you said, Brad. He thinks that Denver's going to be in position to win the Western Conference here for the first time.
Yeah, 100%. So, James, who you got in that series? Suns and Nuggets.
Well, Denver got the first 2, so you have an advantage there, James.
You got to go with the Nuggets. I'm going Nuggets in 5.
It's funny you said that. I was thinking either 5 or 6. I do think Phoenix will get one of the 2, but I also feel like that window for Phoenix is so short because you got Durant, Paul, and then Booker. I mean, how long can they really be together almost? I kind of feel like the window for Phoenix, I don't know if it's closed, but I mean, if they don't win here, I mean, what can you realistically say for that trio? And how about their coach, too, by the way? You never want to advocate for coaches on the hot seat, but you kind of wonder there what happens with Monty Williams. So, yeah, I kind of think Denver wins it just because of the 2-0 start. You have something different to say, Brad? You kind of said already Denver.
No, I agree with you 100%. I think the Nuggets are going to win in 5 or 6 games. I'm really confident in the Nuggets. I'm really seeing their depth on full display, right? Even a guy like – I want to give credit to a guy like Christian Brown. The guy who was at Kansas, I mean, it was a rookie. He's playing amazing off that bench, and they have so many depth pieces, across that team. So they're going to be really tough to beat. I don't think the Suns can do it down 2-0. And honestly, the Warriors, even though they have that really strong core, the bench unit is not nearly as good as Denver's, and that's why I think they're going to beat them too. So I got Denver getting to the Western Conference Finals, and I'll reserve my opinions for the East after these 2 series.
Well, listen, those 2 series to me, I think, are a little bit more even in terms of where they could go. So we'll certainly see. And obviously, could it be Denver's year similar to Milwaukee a couple of years ago? Kind of has that feeling, but We'll certainly see.
All right, one more professional team I got to bring up to James before we kind of close it out. All right. And you see the picture behind me, so I'm kind of trying to show it. All right, and me and Tom are so excited for this. I can't wait. I mean, the first couple of practices are underway, and this is my most exciting team to watch out of any team in New York, and I cannot wait to see them on the court, and that is the New York Liberty. And listen, James DeSimone, I had a kind of pull and tug to go to a game last year. And, he went to the game, and I give him credit
I was wondering if he was actually going to, before he leaves, go to a game. I'd love to meet you, obviously.
He's coming to a game this year because he knows and he appreciated the New York Liberty when he went. So I want you to talk about the Liberty right here, James.
We went to a playoff game, so the atmosphere was crazy.
So you were at that game that was the one that Anthony Finkel was at?
Yes.
Correct? Okay, yeah, that was the game.
Anthony Finkel was sitting right in front of us. Yep.
Yes,
okay.
He said he knew.
Yeah, Anthony Finkel. I've been friends with him for like 8 years, like 8 or 9 years. We go back from Brooklyn, so yeah, I know Anthony Finkel very well. Yep, very good dear friend of mine.
So, the Liberty, it was a fun game to watch. Didn't they get a new player or something? Someone signed with them.
Yeah, they got a lot of new players.
Yeah,
they got Brianna Stewart, all right, who is one of the best players in the WNBA. Right, they got Courtney Vandersloot, who was a champion. Right, they got Jonquel Jones, who's one of the best players in the WNBA from Connecticut. The New York Liberty are going to be something special this year. I mean, I was considering season tickets if I didn't have to coach so much. I want to.
I was going to say, Brad, unfortunately, I don't think I could join you that many times. I mean, I could join you sometimes.
Listen, I'll take myself. This team is really exciting. I cannot wait for this season.
I know them and the Los Angeles, the Aces, right?
The Las Vegas Aces. Yeah.
Are they two top of the teams? Both like super teams, right?
Yes. Yes, the Aces are going to be very good. They got Candace Parker from Chicago. They still have that base of Kelsey Plum and on the rest of their crew. So, listen, that's probably the title favorite to be those two teams. But I don't care about no damn Aces. I care about the Liberty. All right? And the Liberty are going to be the real deal. So make sure everyone right now is listening to that. And I hope that you support these Liberty because they are something to be seen.
And also, we were talking about this off the air. I sent you something a couple of weeks ago that we're going to see nationally televised games now, Friday nights for the WNBA. So it's kind of a big deal. They got on a new network out there. They're going to be playing, I think almost each week they're going to play at least one, if not two games. So that's a big deal for the league to have that kind of coverage. And the league, I think, is moving in a direction that we'll see. And John Gonzalez has a comment about Anthony Finkel and a woman. Yeah, I'm sure. Listen, Anthony Finkel likes a lot of women. I mean, but that's kind of we're not here at the place for that. But that's Anthony Finkel's like if you ever heard of a baseball player, Manny Ramirez, James. He's like the Manny Ramirez of like Sportswire Radio, like Manny being Manny almost. It's kind of like Anthony Finkel. He's a great guy though. Great guy, does a lot for the community, but he has an interesting imagination. But anything else, Brad, you want to ask James? I feel like you've peppered him a lot here over the last.
I think I've done just enough. But to kind of conclude it off, like I said, the brotherhood that me and James have built. We could talk about anything. I mean, I could go on this show. We could talk about anything. And again, we're going to have fun with it. We're going to, kind of poke the bear a little bit, kind of like John Gonzalez. We're going to poke the bear a little bit. We're going to try to, but at the same time, we have profound respect for each other. I think you can see that throughout the show. And once again, to kind of go back to the point at the beginning of the show, James is one of the first players at this type of level, like all conference, all county, that took a chance on me to be his trainer and the one to kind of take him by the wing and learn. And that's something that I'll forever remember and forever be grateful for, with the fact that James is now coaching alongside me and, of course, my dad, who I know James admires as well. So that's been a great relationship and a great partnership we've built as well. We're also doing camps and clinics for Jesse with Level Up. So we've done a lot together, and I really appreciate all the great memories and moments that I've had with James. And again, there's many more to come for sure. And, for James, I'm also appreciative and very happy that he came on tonight with us because this is something that he's also going to help him learn. I remember me, Tom, when you first interviewed me on the show, right, as a college basketball player, I was a little shaky. But now I've really learned. So I think James is going to take this and he's going to run with it. He's going to learn. And I think he's going to be a great coach and mentor going forward.
He says go to bed. Well, he will in a few minutes, but I mean, listen, if it makes you feel better and if you're nervous, James, I mean, I always give this as an example. I had interviewed at the time a state senator in Westchester County. This is during COVID, and she's well known in the Hudson Valley, actually. And you're thinking, okay, well, she's in the news all the time. And I spoke with her, and the person who set the interview up for me, he's like, you got 20 minutes, and I'm telling you, by the time the first 10 minutes in, she's going to be super nervous. The first 10 minutes in, it was like I kept thinking, how am I going to get this woman off the air? So, I mean, so you were nowhere near to that level. I think we wound up doing 30 minutes, and it was like, okay, thank you very much, Senator, because she wasn't a talker. So not everybody's a talker out there. So don't feel too bad. Maybe you'll come up for the brute force. And Jason Getz would also like to say, you got to be up for Rosie's class tomorrow. You guys in the same class? Is that what that is?
Same solfege class. Yeah, he's right.
All right. Well, I'll make sure then to get you off here shortly. Okay. Good luck, James. I'll keep
Thank you,
tabs
John.
on you. So definitely do that. All right. I want to ask you then this last question before I get to closing thoughts here. And then, what do you want to say to anybody that has supported you through this journey as you're transitioning into your next step at Misericordia University?
I'm really just grateful for all of them, and I'm gonna make them all proud. That's my goal. I do it for them, and I do it for myself. Especially for Brad. Brad's put so much time and effort into training me, and seriously, Brad, thank you.
Is there one or two moments that stand out most to Clark?
Yeah, definitely. The one reversing. I have two moments. The first one was Kellenberg. It was tie game, fourth quarter. 5 seconds left. I'm shooting 2 free throws. I make both free throws, go down the other end, get a steal, and then it solidifies the game. That was probably my second favorite moment. And then my first was we reversing Valley Stream North at home.
Okay.
I came off a pick. I did a step back. I hit a 3-pointer, and it sent it into OT with like 5 seconds left. And definitely those are 2 crazy moments.
Wow.
I'm really surprised he's missing one moment, or at least 2. And I hate to. Why do I have to be the guy to bring it up? I mean, how about your moments against Plainview? The ones that you
had. Those. I mean, if you got a minute, I'd love to hear those.
But because Brad doesn't like to count the Hicksville League as a proper game, but since he's counting it, I will say it was a lucky shot. It was Brad. What was the scenario? Was it tie game?
No, you guys were up 3 and you hit a 3 to go up 6 late in the game.
Yeah,
but it was one of those shots. Tom, remember the Kawhi Leonard shot from the corner for the Raptors?
Yeah, yes, I do.
Right? It took like 17 bounces and went in. Like it was one of those lucky shots that James hit. That of course I'm on the other sideline as the coach of Plainview, and he hits that shot, and obviously they win the playoff game against us in the fall league. That again is a fall league for development, but it was a big shot.
It was the playoffs, and I remember I hit the shot and I looked over at Brad just like when I was a kid in 3rd grade.
He did.
And that was a surreal moment.
Well, those are some good moments. I mean, certainly you've had a lot of them, and I have no doubt that you're going to have many more moments ahead over at Misericordia College there in Pennsylvania, and I have no doubt that you're going to make a lot of people proud. You've already done that, whether it's Brad, whether it's Coach Winter, the Dempseys, whether it's so many people that have supported you, especially your family here, and certainly it was a tremendous honor to have the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I mean, I'm sure we could talk a lot more, but I do realize that you are a young whippersnapper and you do have other things to get up for tomorrow, not like me that has no functioning ability to sleep and certainly does things different, which I would recommend. Whatever you do in life, just don't be like me when you grow up. Whatever you do, just keep doing what you're doing. Keep listening to coaches like Brad, because if you end up like me, you'll probably be on like one of this is your life, like don't do like this, don't do that kind of thing. No, I'm not that bad, but just the point is keep doing what you're doing. But obviously, Brute Force knows what he's talking about. Listen to him, listen to everybody else that has supported you. But certainly, I want everybody to follow you on Instagram and Twitter at JamesDeSimone_. But before I get to your closing thoughts, Brad, I got to give you the opportunity to speak here first. And anything else you want to plug, share, say. And looking forward to doing this here maybe with Coach Gordieso in a couple of weeks. We'll see what Coach has to say about DSO. We'll talk about DSO range, if it's such a thing, and can we confirm, deny it, whatever that might be. So anything anything else you want to plug? Brad, I hope this has met your expectations of James and some here live, and the floor is yours, and you know the drill.
Yeah, Tom, thank you for having us on tonight. James, thank you for coming on. This was an interesting one for sure, because we've had a lot of people obviously reach out to us, Tom, and want to come on the show. But it was a little bit different with James. He was very much like he was dying to come on this show. I
was surprised. He said a couple of days ago, "Man, I can't wait. I'm so excited." And I'm like, "Really? You so excited to come on Sportswire?" Sometimes I feel like people that want to come on Sportswire and say it, there's got to be like a rib here or something. I was like,
it was a different attitude. Like, people really want to come on our show, Tom, but he was like dying for this opportunity. So we appreciate that. Our Sportswire fans and supporters appreciate that. So I'm definitely happy. And for me,
a lot of new ones on YouTube, by the way, a lot of new subscribers. If you check out YouTube, we gained I think 50 something new subscribers since the year started. So there's a lot of people on YouTube now.
It's awesome. So we're doing great things, and obviously so is James, and that's why he's here and he's talking to us. But if you want to see some of the great things that I'm doing, you can follow me at bweiss20 and at Coach Brad Weiss on Instagram, at Brad Weiss20 on Twitter, and searching Bradley Weiss on Facebook. With that being said, once again, I want to thank James for coming on. I'm extremely excited to see what he does at Misericordia. I'm going to do my best to get to as many games as possible, but I'll be watching online a lot. So certainly I can't wait to see his career unfold. We're still putting in a lot of work together on the court to try to help him get prepared for the next level. So that's kind of the next step in our progression that we continue to push for the college level. So there'll definitely be some more push-ups and some more tougher drills to do for James. But he certainly wants it. And that's the best part about him as a coach, is that he wants the challenge. He wants me to push him harder and do things, at a higher level. So we're certainly going to do that. I can't wait for that chapter of his life. And this was something that, again, the first college player to ever that I ever trained. Like, I've never gotten a player that's gotten to the college level as a trainer, as a coach. So it meant a lot to me that James was the first one. Obviously, all the time we've put together. I want to thank his family, his mother, his father, his brother, his uncle, all of the great members of his family who support me big time. They really do. They trusted me with James, and they continue to support me, whether it's, just verbally or getting, allow me to come over to the hot tub once in a while, something like that. They really are very, very supportive of what I do and how much I care about the game of basketball. And James's way of caring is something that, any player out there, like, if you want to really learn how to motivate yourself to be a great player, what it takes to be a great player, what type of attitude you need to have to be a great player, James personifies all of that, and it's an honor that I am even in his presence to be able to influence him to become a better basketball player and a better person. So thank you, Tom, for the opportunity to do this. Certainly can't wait, and James continues to support our shows on Friday night. I was actually going to ask the question, but we know the question, the answer. I was going to ask James what his favorite thing to do on Friday night is. We know that's watching Sportswire Radio. So certainly we can't wait for that on Friday. And I can't thank James enough for coming on. And I can't thank him enough for his support of our show as well.
Absolutely. He's a special young man, and I have no doubt that he's going to do a lot of great things. I hope to get to meet you maybe at the Liberty games here coming up before you leave in August. Obviously, we'll be at a bunch of, might even be at one, I think the end of May, I think the 27th possibly.
We'll definitely go.
Yeah, I definitely hope to be able to meet you there. And I want to give you the floor then, give you some closing thoughts, anything else you want to plug, share, or say, and I turn it over to you, champ.
From watching this show for 2 years now, to be able to get the opportunity to come on the show is a blessing. So thank you, Tom. Thank you, Brad. I appreciate everything you guys done tonight. It was fun. And thank you guys.
Okay, well, let's follow you on Instagram and Twitter. You got to plug yourself. Let me give you some advice. You always got to plug yourself. James DeSimone _
Plug.
Instagram and Twitter. Also, YouTube. You got a YouTube page where you can see some content. James DeSimone. Do a search, James DeSimone Basketball on YouTube. You'll see some of his highlights, some of his packages. Make sure you follow this young man. He's going to go on and do bigger and better things. You've seen him for Level Up LI _ on Instagram. Also, WT Clark with an E, BB on Instagram. Also, Misericordia Basketball on Instagram. Please follow them. Also, everything else this young man does, definitely join him. And congratulations, my friend. All the success. And we look forward to hopefully speaking with you soon. Definitely going to meet you out here in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center before you leave. And I look forward to it. And go get some rest. And we'll see what happens. And hope to have you back on maybe before you leave as well.
Appreciate that, Tom. Thank you, man.
All right, and ladies and gentlemen, you are here on sportnarium.com/player. We have the honor, pleasure, and privilege to deal with here, and that is James DeSimone. He was the 2023 All-Conference Player of the Year, AV Player of the Year, 3 times All-County for our Clark basketball team here on Long Island. Also, he was the Newsday 2 years in a row top 100 basketball player and one of the best players around here on Long Island. Certainly made history here for our Clark basketball team, winning the school's first playoff game, home playoff game. 15 wins, most in the program's history, a part of 5 players that were all conference on his way to the Misericordia Golden Bears basketball team here later this year. And to join me to speak with James in his journey, that was the brute force Brad Weiss. Of course, you can see for our Plainview boys JV basketball team. He's the head coach. They're also an assistant for the varsity team, also with the Level Up Long Island basketball organization, where he coaches alongside James. He also coached him there also, and the brute force also does great work as well for our Long Island Nets. You've seen him in the past for the LI Brew Crew, and also 27th all-time for our SJLI Golden Eagles men's basketball team in rebounds. He's at the top of the list all-time in block shots. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I'm the man behind Sportswire Radio. I will be back Thursday night about 8 p.m. British Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time with musical artist turned professional wrestler Jenny Hayes. They call her the rock idol of the UK, and she'll be talking about her brand new music and her upcoming matches ahead, so a lot to talk about there. But if you're on sportnarium.com/player, you go back to your regularly scheduled program. If you're on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, thank you for listening. Thank you to Jason Getz, John Gonzalez, Jason Gordieso, and everybody else that is tuned in here tonight on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio.